Coming up in today's Dallas Cowboys FANS, we're diving into the latest updates around Shavon Revel's injury situation, which has sparked new discussions across the fan base and media. Plus, we're going to break down a Bleacher Report article that suggests several offseason moves the Cowboys should consider before training camp officially gets underway, some of which make sense, and one in particular that, quite frankly, I think is just plain ridiculous. But before we get into all of that, I want to quickly say thank you because we've officially taken the lead in our June subscriber battle against the 49 Ears Report. That's a win in itself. Of course, there are still a few other channels we're trailing, but we'll catch up soon enough. For now, let's make sure we bury San Francisco in subs if you're a Cowboys fan and want daily videos packed with updates, analysis, and more. Hit that subscribe button right now. It costs you nothing, and it helps keep the Cowboys' content flowing all year round. Now let's get into the situation with Shavon Revel. NFL insider Albert Breer recently reported that Revel suffered a little bit of a setback in his recovery from a knee injury. To be fair, I want to lay out the entire quote and the full context because sometimes that gets lost in the noise. The quote came from a podcast Breer did with Connor Orr, where he was talking about the Cowboys' overall draft class. Breer said, "Revel is really interesting," and mentioned how injuries can complicate things for talented players. He noted that Revel had a little bit of a setback with his knee, but added that he thinks the corner will be okay. Then he threw in that Revel could have been in the conversation for the first cornerback taken had he not gotten hurt. It's worth noting, and I want to emphasize this, I've heard from multiple sources that this setback was actually pre-draft, meaning it was already known and evaluated by teams during the scouting process. In fact, that's likely one of the reasons Revel slid into the third round when there was buzz he could go as high as the second. He wasn't alone either. Trey Amos also had some under-the-radar injury concerns leading into the draft. This all aligns with the standard ACL recovery timeline. Remember, Revel tore his ACL in September, and typically, recovery from that kind of injury hovers around the 9-12-month mark, sometimes longer depending on the athlete and their rehab progression. Right now, he's at the edge of that return window. The fact that he wasn't cleared for full movement until around the draft makes sense. Some guys come back as quickly as possible. Others take their time, and the smart teams know not to rush it. Look, there's always a degree of risk when drafting players with significant injuries. Just look at examples from around the league. Some players, like Michael Gallup, have never quite returned to their pre-injury form, while others, like Nick Chubb, came back and immediately dominated. You just never know, and that's the gamble. In Revel's case, I believe the risk was 100% worth it. If you can grab a potential starting caliber cornerback with elite traits in the third round, you make that move every time. From what I've heard, there hasn't been any new concern about his recovery, and we'll get a better idea during training camp. But don't be shocked if the Cowboys slow play it, a bit protecting his long-term value rather than pushing him out too early and risking re-injury. And that brings us to the big question of today's show. Will Shavon Revel be ready for the start of training camp? Sound off in the comments. Type Y for yes or N for no. Personally, I'm leaning toward maybe, but not fully. This time of year always brings optimism, and I wouldn't be surprised to see fans split right down the middle, something like a 60/40 or 50/50 poll. But here's the thing, NFL teams are cautious. Once a player is activated from the P, UP or NFI list, if they have another setback, you can't just stash them back on injured reserve without ending their season. So most teams play it safe. They give players an extra week or two, let them ramp up slowly, and avoid rushing their return to live action drills. especially with a young guy like Revel. It wouldn't be surprising if the Cowboys started him on one of those reserve lists, gave him a soft reintroduction, and activated him mid-camp. That way, they don't jeopardize his future in 2026 or 2027 by being short-sighted in 2025. That's just how the league operates. Now, speaking of this cornerback group, here's where things get a little more concerning Week 1. The Cowboys are going to face some of the most dangerous receivers in football right out of the gate. How are you going to contain J. Brown and Devonta Smith if Trayvon Diggs isn't 100% ready? Sure, Darren Bland can hold his own, but if we're throwing a rookie like Revel out there too early, that's a lot to ask. And if another injury happens, knock on wood, you're talking about depending on guys like Kalen Carson, Israel Mukwamu, or even Andrew Booth Jr. That's a lot of ifs in a secondary with not a lot of proven depth behind the top two. That's why I believe the Cowboys front office is going to keep a very close eye on how the first 2 to 3 weeks of camp go. If the young guys show they're ready, great. But if not, I fully expect them to look at signing a veteran cornerback in late July or early August. Shifting gears a bit, let's talk about some off-season gear. Cowboys training camp apparel is available now. Whether you're looking for a fresh hat, a hoodie, a t-shirt, or even a bucket hat to beat that California sun, or just something to wear while cutting the grass, you can grab yours at Chat Sports. I'm telling you, the bucket hat is a must. Keeps your face protected, avoids the burn, and has you looking game day ready at all times. Check out the link in the comments or the video description to snag yours. Now let's circle back to the Bleacher Report article that listed 3 moves the Cowboys should make before training camp. The first one? Prepare to install the new defense. Like what? That's the whole point of camp. That's literally why it exists. How is that even a listed recommendation? That's not a move. That's the bare minimum. That's like saying step 1 of your morning routine, breathe. Come on. That's not analysis, that's filler. The defense should already be in the process of being installed by now. So I'm not even going to waste more breath on that one. But the second suggestion? That one's legit. Extend Micah Parsons. This should be a no-brainer. Parsons is one of the most dominant non-quarterbacks in the NFL and deserves to be paid like it. The Bleacher Report piece even notes the Cowboys have over $32.5 million in cap space, which means they can absolutely structure a deal that pays Micah top dollar while also creating additional cap flexibility. It's important for fans to realize this extending Parsons could actually save the Cowboys money in the short term. Right now, Micah is set to count roughly $24 million against the cap in 2025. If he plays out the tag, that jumps to nearly $29 million, and a second tag in 2027 would push it to over $34 million. But if you extend him and give him a large signing bonus, let's say something in the range of Nick Bosa's $50 million, you can cut his cap hit nearly in half for the first year, and even more over the next few years. That kind of move frees up space for other roster upgrades. You're still paying him top-tier money, but you're managing the cap responsibly. Finally, Bleacher Report floated the idea of beefing up the run defense. Now this is a move I can get behind. They mentioned 2 names, CJ Mosley at linebacker and Raekwon Davis at defensive tackle. Mosley's an interesting case. He was once elite with the Ravens, but his time with the Jets has seen some decline. Plus, he's battled injuries. Given that the Cowboys already added Kenneth Murray and Jack Sanborn and are still evaluating young guys like Maris Lufo, I'm not sure linebacker is the immediate need. Defensive tackle, though? That's a different story. Raekwon Davis, who spent most of his career with the Dolphins before getting a solid 2-year, $14 million deal with the Colts, is a massive body at 6'7" and over 320 pounds. He's not a game wrecker, but he's a run stuffer, something the Cowboys desperately need up front. If you don't feel confident in guys like Junior Fehoko, Justin Rogers, or Quinton Bohanna, then grabbing a guy like Davis on a one-year, $3 million deal might be a smart stopgap. He's not flashy, but he fits the mold of someone who can eat up blocks and free up your linebackers. In a thin defensive line market, he's one of the better options left.